Notre Dame has done something we rarely see at this point. Duke and Kentucky, they beat both of them on the road, just the third team to do so in a single season for the last 25 years. I would love, because of our friendship with Jordan Cornette, to say this is a statement about Notre Dame. But this might just be a statement about Duke and Kentucky both being garbage.
I was going to say, I mean, good for Notre Dame, I guess, but I feel like most teams should be beating Duke and Kentucky this season. So as great as that is, it's the first team to do it in the last 25 seasons. Congratulations, but also Duke and Kentucky, not too great.
Well, a third team. And by the way here, I'm going to make sure I read this correctly.
Yeah.
Duke and Kentucky both have losing records at the same time for the first time since 1974. Kansas became the latest team to drop out of the AP poll, ending the longest streak of all time in the poll at 231 straight weeks. The last AP poll without Duke, UNC, Kentucky, Kansas, UCLA, and Michigan State, all not in, was December 18th, 1961. So I'm always a fan of chaos, but Christine, I have a hard time seeing how this could possibly be good for college basketball. Like, we love upsets, but we also want upsets. There's got to be some favorite in there to see an upset.
I mean, 231 straight weeks is a very long time. Here's the thing that's actually very kind of sad for me is the fact that Kansas is typically at the top of the Big 12. They're currently fourth in the Big 12, which kind of changed the dynamic in conferences. Obviously, like we said, changes the dynamic in college basketball as a whole. It's just weird, but it's 2021, 2020. It's an odd season. I like to chalk it up to that. However, I mean, everybody's in the same season.
I think some of the lack of success for these teams that rely on a lot of freshmen, that makes sense, right? Yeah. Like, if you're a one-and-done school at this point, it makes sense. Now, early on in every year in the tournament, it feels like what we want is some massive upset. We want 16 over 1, 15 over 2. We want that to happen one time. But the ratings, and, you know, I try not to put too much emphasis on that with everything, but the ratings have always sort of fleshed out the fact that by the time we get to the Final Four, people like blue bloods. Like, there is a different level to a championship game that includes, you know, a Duke North Carolina championship game just gets better numbers than two schools that most people have never heard of. It's always a weird catch-up when people get into the tournament, but it feels like this year particularly there could be a lot of catch-up because there are so many teams that just aren't known entities to most common fans.
I feel like March will be very exciting, though, because our blue bloods aren't playing that well. They could play better in March, who knows, but also the thing that's most exciting about March Madness is when teams that nobody knows beats teams that should be winning games. We still have Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, teams like that are still playing really well. So it's not like all the teams at the top are unknowns, but I think it kind of makes March a little bit more interesting.
Well, what's going to make March interesting is our continual bets. We got to find more to figure out what's going on. All right, so speaking of interesting, some of the best of the best, let's take a look at some of who's hooping around college basketball.
Is a winner with a capital W.
All right, let's take a look at some of the best from the week, and we'll start with Iowa's Caitlin Clark. Love that we give some women's basketball love all across the board here.
I love it too.
Fourth in women's ball, averaging 25.9 points per game, back-to-back 30-point games, both against ranked teams. She's absolutely crushing it right now.
She also did a Steph Curry / Devin Booker / Dame Lillard move the other day against Nebraska, pulled up from the logo and drained it. Like, this girl can ball.
Look at that, too, right there. I mean, driving the lane with the extension out, just absolutely unbeatable. Yeah. So good work on her, and love, again, that we're giving some highlight. There's some great women this year in women's basketball that deserve the love they're getting. Next up, let's give a love to a little, this is unusual love. Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils.
Poor guys, honestly. I don't know.
It's been a devil of a season for them. See what I did there?
You love to see it. They beat Alabama 68-65, but they hadn't won a game before that. They're now 1-16. They started the season 0-16. They had been outscored by an average of 37.8 points per game and entered the day last in BPI. So, I mean, congratulations, they won a game.
Hey, you know what? When you've been suffering through the year that you've been suffering through, like, of all the years that I don't want anyone to have that sort of a season, hey, we'll celebrate anyone we can get.
I feel bad for the team that they beat, because I feel like if you're going up against a team that hasn't won one game, if you take the L, that is even worse on you.
Yeah, Alabama State right now is they're just regrouping. They're just regrouping. All right, next up on Who's Hoopin', a little love for Loyola Chicago. This is Cameron Krutwig, sorry. And Cameron averaging 18.5 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 5 assists in the last 4 games for the Fighting Sister Jeans. Oh, good work.
I mean, he was a freshman on the team that made the Final Four. And, I mean, I feel like we have to give love to teams that we don't always talk about because, like you said, we've been talking about the Blue Bloods all season, so you love to see it.
Yeah, they have a big doubleheader against 19-1 Drake this weekend. Singer overrated basketball team. We'll see. First game is at noon Eastern on ESPN2. Takes me no time to get into the Drake game.
Every single time.
The best thing Drake's ever done is the State Farm commercial. If he would just act instead of singing, it would be great.
I actually agree with that part, but
look at that. All right, next up on Who's Hoopin', not Drake. Minnesota's Marcus Carr versus Purdue. Named to the late season Wooden Award watch list. 19 points to the win over number 22 Purdue, I should say.
Yeah, scored 8 points in the final 1 minute and 7 seconds, including a game-winning 3. He's a bucket. You love to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great work by him. And that's a little bit of love to some of the players and teams that are shining across the college basketball landscape this week.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.